Hi everyone, my name is Mark Hopkinson. I'm a parishioner here at St. Pat's, and today we're going to have a little discussion on what is the domestic church and why is it important to us and our families. So a little short background on myself. I was born and raised in the south side of Chicago, and yes, I am a Sox fan. I've been a parishioner at St. Pat's for 25 years. And a little over 20 of those years, I've taught religious ed to both children and adults here at St. Pat's. I'm currently on the RCIA team and was a founding core team member of That Man Is You, and also teach another special sacrament class. I will tell you one thing about my experiences with teaching religious ed. There's been nothing in my life more joyful or more rewarding than doing this. All the other accolades we can have in life are nice and they're good, but this has been the most joyful and rewarding in my life. So to give you a little story of my little domestic church on the south side of Chicago, I grew up in the town of Blue Island, and we belonged to St. Benedict's Parish. Blue Island is right on the south side, begins where Chicago ends. Back in the day, when you were from Chicago or the surrounding areas, people always used to ask you, what parish are you from? So that was how they identified what neighborhood you were from. So my mom and dad got married in the 1950s. My father was a very quiet man, and he was devoted to his family. He was not Catholic. My mother was, and before they got married, she said to my dad, listen, if we're blessed with children, I'd like to raise them Catholic. And he said yes, no problem. No arguments, supported that 100% his whole life. Never became Catholic, but supported it 100%. So to me, that was kind of even before they were married, that was the beginning of their little domestic church. From a very early age, I would say 4 or 5, I remember going to church with my mom. Every Sunday and Holy Day, we would go to St. Benedict's, and it was something I looked forward to. I can't say I understood it, but I looked forward to it. And I remember one time begging to go to midnight mass. I was still pretty young, and my mom said, well, if you don't fall asleep, you can go. And we went. And of course, my dad always drove us to Mass and any other occasion, First Communion, Confirmation. He was always there, and he always at least took us there. If not, it came to some of the services too. When I was in 4th grade, I was going to public school, and my mom wasn't satisfied with the education, and she asked my father if she could, transfer me to St. Benedict's, and he said yes, and they knew it would be a financial burden, just because you had to pay for it opposed to the public schools. So in 5th grade, I transferred to St. Benedict's, and my mom said to the nuns, she said, do whatever it takes to get him up to speed. And they were wonderful. I had great relationships with all the nuns, and spent a lot of time after school with some of them. All good. And again, I think there's another little turning point in a life, part of the domestic church at home. My mom caring enough, and my dad wanting to sacrifice so they could get me into that school and kind of get me on the right track. And really, I look back at that, that was kind of a pivotal point for my life, because it really changed at that point. In addition, my mom actually volunteered at the school all the years I was there. And, she wanted to give back a little bit. And I think of all the kids she taught, and some of them were my friends. And some of them I still know today. And they always expressed gratitude to my mother for either teaching them how to read, arithmetic, whatever she was doing. And she got a great joy out of that too. So maybe subliminally, that's why I've done what I've done over the last so many years. But again, just giving back, and that was part of her little gift to our own family domestic church, and it was really beautiful. After grammar school, I went to Marist High School in Chicago, run by the Marist brothers, and then St. Joseph's College in Rensselaer, Indiana, and also went to graduate school too. So it really, after that point, after 5th grade on, I had a Catholic education through college. It was really beautiful. So I want to share some experiences here at the parish. So one year, not too long ago, during RCIA, one of the candidates, matter of fact, her name was Mary, she looked at the team and she said, "What qualifies you to teach this?" We all kind of stood back, and then everybody kind of explained, "Okay, I've taken these classes, I've done this, I've taught this," and she was satisfied with that. But she was a nurse, and she was a nursing instructor, and she wanted to make sure, like she did for her nursing students, that she was getting the good stuff. So, and one thing the whole team, the RCIA team, said to her too, she said, "We don't want to stand before God and have Him ask us why we didn't, tell everybody about Him and speak the truth." So again, this is part of the mission of the domestic church at home. That's part of the mission. So I'm going to do a little demonstration here, just for the sake of emphasizing our time that we have here on earth. This is something I did not come up myself. You could look it up on YouTube by a gentleman named Francis Chan. He does it way better than me. So, but I thought it was always, I've done this for years with the classes, and it seems to really hit home. So let's imagine this rope here, and this little part here where you see the green tape is our lives. And the rest of this rope that stretches all the way around out the door, it goes on forever, infinity. So we're born here, we grow up, we go to school, keep going to school. Maybe we graduate, we get a job, we get married, and then we work real hard, and then maybe have some kids, and life goes on. We retire maybe, and then right here we're going to do this, we're going to do that, and then right here, what happens? We die, and we meet Jesus. And everything we do in this short period of time affects where we're going to go in eternity. So instead of, helping our neighbor, maybe we did something for ourselves, or, I'm not going to give that homeless person $5. He's going to use it for something else. But all those little things, I'm going to do something for myself. All those things affect, in this short span, where we go for eternity. So, relating back to the domestic church, it's so important to set the right sail for our families. And it makes a huge difference. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Okay, so let me read a quote for you from the Catechism on what does the Catechism say about the domestic church. So this is from paragraph 1656. In our own time, in a world often hostile to the faith, believing families are the primary importance as centers of living, radiant faith. It is the bosom of the family that parents are, by word and example, first heralds of the faith with regard to their children. They should encourage them in the vocation which is proper for each child, marriage, single life, religious life, whatever that is, fostering special care for any religious vocations. So both mom and dad are critical to pass on the faith. But studies have shown when a father practices his faith, it has a much higher percentage of passing on to the entire family, and they keep it and pass it on. This is the domestic church at work again. And, don't forget, we said, by word and an example. Maybe you take your kids and do little adult things with them. You go help a neighbor. Or maybe there's a sick extended relative, an aunt or something. Oh, we're going to take some food over to Aunt Ruth or somebody. Those things, children and kids, they watch what we do. They watch and they learn that way. So it's not only about just speaking and reading about the faith, it's also about living it. So think of those things you can do. It's really important. As a side note, for dads, when dads, fathers, they write notes to their children, especially the girls, they generally keep them for life. It's just another way to pass on the faith. It's another way to enrich your domestic church at home. Really beautiful. If we don't pass our faith on, or any tradition, say you have a favorite recipe at Thanksgiving, pumpkin pie or something, and if we don't pass that on, it takes 2 generations, no matter what it is, including our faith, and it's gone. That's sad. And I think probably we all know some families, my own included, that, you wonder what happened. Because people didn't believe in the domestic church, the church of the family. So I'd like to share some other experiences right here at St. Pants regarding the domestic church. We have a special sacrament class here, and it's for parents and children. They attend together and they learn about reconciliation and First Communion. For the past 5 years, every year, by the first or second class, a parent will come up, sometimes in front of the whole class, sometimes just up, there's a couple of us that teach, almost in tears, if not in tears, saying they never were taught this. They never were taught this. And sometimes they do share it with the whole class. These parents are amazing, heartfelt witnesses to their children. That's beautiful. Another domestic church moment. So you're probably thinking, well, what's going on? Why is this happening? Well, if we go to, why does it happen every year? And it has. We're not trying to make it happen, it just happens. To quote St. Augustine, there's a hole in our hearts that can only be filled with God. I'll repeat that from St. Augustine. There's a hole in our hearts that can only be filled with God. So if we look at the Catechism in paragraph 27, which is the very beginning of the Catechism, this is really very simple and straightforward. The desire of God is written in the human heart because man is created by God and for God. And God never ceases to draw man to himself. That's why we feel that way. God made us. We literally, not literally, but we have a hole in our heart that has to be only filled by him. I'm sure we've all tried to fill ourselves with worldly stuff, right? Yeah, look at that car, or maybe a nice house or something, a vacation, and it looks shiny and bright. But how many times within a week, 2 weeks, it doesn't do anything for us? It's because, as we just said, man is created by God and for God. I can share years of experiences that when parents attend class with their children, they actively share the faith in word and deed in the domestic church. I've seen it many, many, many times, and people will say, their whole life is greater caring, greater happiness, greater holiness. When they focus their part of their lives, the best part of their lives, on God, and He does the rest. God has a beautiful plan for all of us, one we can't even imagine, one I couldn't even imagine. We need to act, we need to trust, and we need to let God drive. On a similar note, a couple of years ago, another experience from RCIA, very intelligent young man, almost through the program, and he finally said, he pointed up at his head and said, I have to turn this down, and I have to turn this up. In other words, sometimes we overthink these things. We just have to leave the Lord into our own little heart so we can form a beautiful domestic church at home. So to wrap up, I'd like to give you a new definition of the word joy. I'm sure you all know what the word joy means. So here's the new definition. It's Jesus, others, and yourself. Now, on the surface, society says, what? No. It's me first, you second, that third, and maybe God fourth. But when you, and if you try this, put Jesus first, others, and yourself, in your little domestic church, your life becomes right ordered. What do I mean by that? It almost becomes supernatural because we're doing the things the way God created us to do them. And God is outside of time. Now you may say, I don't have time to put Jesus first. I have kids, I have a job, I'm working from home, I'm doing homeschooling, I'm doing all. You know what? God knows all that. But I promise you, if you just, even in the morning, if you take 2 minutes and just thank God, say, Lord, thank you for another day, thank you for my family. God is outside time. He knows how to stretch the day for you. And really, you will be amazed when you right order your day. So try to remember that. Jesus, others, yourself. And in case your children are not, tuning in with you, you can always remind them about the fourth commandment. What is the fourth commandment? It's the only commandment that comes with a promise. The fourth commandment is honor your mother and father. The promise is a long life. And if you think of it simply, which I have to think of all these things simply, that's important to God. And that's part of the domestic family. So, we should always focus and pull together as a domestic family, the church. Let me wrap this up in summary. I'm going to read paragraph 1657 from the Catechism, which sums up what we've been talking about. The home is the first school of Christian life. Here one learns endurance, the joy of work, fraternal love, generous, even repeated forgiveness, and above all, divine worship in prayer and offerings one life. Remember, giving your time is giving part of your life to somebody and to one another. So consider the rope again, when we meet God. And wouldn't it be great to hear God say, thank you for telling your children about me and my teachings. Now, my son or daughter, enter into your eternal word. Thanks for listening.